I want you to think about lies you've been told throughout your life. As we've gone through our lives, we've heard many different lies that have been proven to be untrue. And as we start this video, I want you to consider the ones that you can most recently remember. The reason I'm bringing up lies and the reason why this video was originally titled The Greatest Lie Ever Told is because I'm positing to you with this video that one of the greatest lies ever told was a very simple phrase that we heard from the left not too long ago. That phrase is love trumps hate. This was the rallying cry for many Hillary Clinton supporters during the 2016 general election. And we all remember the various banners and flags and signs that leftists would hold up saying that love trumps hate, love trumps hate. We want to love everyone and come together. The right is the party of hate. But here we sit in 2023, and the politics of revenge have reared their ugly head yet again. If you remember back during the last presidential debate in 2016, Trump actually mentioned that he was intending on getting a special prosecutor to look into Hillary Clinton's various misdeeds. And we did not follow through on that campaign promise. And that, I would argue, is part of why we are here today. But because there's so much information that comes out, it feels like you're drinking from a fire hydrant most of the time. So I'm going to do my best to break down the facts around this particular case so you can understand exactly what is taking place. And I have to start with Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg is an individual I could talk about solely for probably an hour, but I'm going to condense this down as best as I can. So Alvin Bragg actually last year had indicated that he was going to stop all investigations into Trump himself. When he was running barely a year ago for this position, one of the things that he ran on was more or less a softening on crime. And shortly after he assumed office, his office released a memo stating that they were not going to be prosecuting offenses such as resisting arrest, prostitution, trespassing, and so on and so forth, even up to and including choosing to use transportation and not paying the fare. These were all things that Alvin Bragg's office said would make their communities less safe and change the criminal justice system. We all know that's lead speak for trying to tamp down the number of, honestly, minorities who typically are apprehended by these means or because of these actions they've taken. Now today, Alvin Bragg did a press conference just in advance of Trump turning himself in to the Manhattan DA's office. And what's very interesting is that he said that we will not normalize serious criminal activity. So it's very ironic that he chose to use that line in this speech today when it's demonstrably untrue when you look at his track record and what he ran on and what his office intends to do. And if you look at the individuals that Alvin Bragg's office has chosen not to prosecute and bring to justice, you're going to see plenty of individuals who should be off the streets, but who are allowed to be released. Because this is the status quo in places like Manhattan, New York, or any blue state or blue city you can name. Now, knowing that, obviously, you can honestly begin to discount much of what Alvin Bragg is saying, but much of this kerfuffle, this political kerfuffle, stems from 2016 and 2017, those years. And in those years, one of Trump's lawyers actually made a payment of $130,000 to Stormy Daniels, real name is Stephanie Clifford. And Stormy Daniels had been going around spreading tales of an affair with Trump and saying that she had been involved in various adult acts with him several years before. Obviously, this is just before the 2016 election. Now, here's what's interesting about this is that even though she'd been making these claims, in 2018, she signed a statement saying that she never received money from Trump and more indicators that she was not being truthful when she made those claims in the first place. Michael Cohen had a similar signed statement. This was all released in January of 2018. But then Stormy Daniels went on Jimmy Kimmel and then began to cast doubt on the veracity of what she originally said. So is she trustworthy? Honestly, I'm not too sure about all that. But all these counts that Trump is currently facing, and there's 34 of them, these are counts of falsifying business records. Now, if you ask anyone out there what the actual crime is by the letter of the law, they're going to struggle to tell you because even the DA is not able to fully articulate what these crimes actually are. And let's go a step further. Because in order for you to be found guilty of a crime such as this, what you need to establish is what's known as mens rea, and that is criminal intent. So in this case, it has to be proven that this payment was made, even though Stephanie Clifford, Stormy Daniels, already denied it in the past. It has to be proven that this was done with criminal intent to bolster Trump's chances of securing the presidency back in 2016. It's worth mentioning, though, that while this payment may or may not have been made, what's very interesting is that there were no efforts to even tamp down the infamous grab her by the you-know-what video, which also came out around the same time. Many individuals already had their minds made up about Trump, and it's really interesting to see that they continue to find anything and everything to go after him, even after the statute of limitations has passed. The statute of limitations for this offense, falsifying business records, is 2 years. And if it's a felony, it would be 5 years, right? We're sitting here in 2017 right now. So it's very ironic again that Alvin Bragg's office would choose to take this case on in the first place, knowing that one of the things he ran on was trying to do away with those low-level misdemeanors that were not constituting very serious crimes in his eyes. And the biggest indicator that this is a political witch hunt is the fact that even today, Joe Biden was asked whether or not this had anything to do with political intentions. And he just simply stared at the person who asked him the question and started to grin and chuckle and laugh. This is all a joke to these people because for them, as we've all seen for several years now, there is a two-tiered justice system at play. And it only benefits individuals the left wants it to benefit. Let's go a step further. The judge in this case, who's presiding over this case, Judge Merchan, I believe is his name, he actually made 3 donations in 2020 to Act Blue. And Act Blue is an organization that is known and well documented for supporting and propping up those on the left who are running for office. And it goes even beyond that because his own daughter worked on Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign at the time. And it's really funny, even though her LinkedIn page has been deleted, people were able to look it up and find that she had her pronouns proudly displayed in her bio. These are all facts that the average individual is not going to hear about this case. Because if we know one thing, if we've learned anything over these past several years, it's that those on the left will do everything in their power to make something sound particularly egregious. Oh my gosh, 34 counts. But they won't tell you any of the information you need to know to establish better context. Stormy Daniels herself, actually, she recently lost her defamation suit against Trump and was ordered to pay around $300,000 to him. In the Ninth Circuit Court just today ordered her to pay $122,000 more. So she's taking L's left and right. What this portends for the future, though, is an unfortunate political reality that we've seen brewing for several years. And that reality is that individuals who are seeking to maintain power will do everything in their power to quash the opposition, regardless of the legalities therewith, and regardless of the incriminating information about themselves. Why is it that Ghislaine Maxwell is still in prison for trafficking young children, apparently to no one, because no one else has taken the fall for that? If we really want to say that no one is above the law, why is it that individuals have been going after Trump for 6, 7 years now, but then they claim this has nothing to do with political motivations? News recently broke that Alvin Bragg's office wants to delay the actual trial until January of 2024, which is very close to, if not already deeply involved in, the Republican primaries. We all know why this is happening. And the question is, if the left was able to secure 81 million votes, which, let's be honest, no one believes, for Joe Biden, who can't string 2 words together in 2020, then why would they be afraid of this man running again in the future? Why would they be doing everything in their power to hold him up? And I'm not even going to say the words, but you know why. You know why. They're doing everything in their power to besmirch and tarnish this man in the hopes that he would possibly not even be able to run for office in the future. It reminds me of a quote from one of Joseph Stalin's Soviet leaders back in the day. Mr. Beria, he said, "Show me the man and I will show you the crime." These are tactics that Soviets, communists, and various despots use to retain their hold on power by any means necessary. And it's very unfortunate that America has chosen to take this path under democratic leadership, because this is the antithesis of a democracy or any semblance of democratic leadership whatsoever. But I'll tell you this, the left and their supporters are very happy right now. They're celebrating out in the streets in New York and across the country. The reason for that is arguably one of the most sinister and insidious truths that we have yet to grapple with. It is because the left has nothing else to rally around. The left has nothing to look forward to. That is one of the biggest things that separates individuals on the right from those on the left. In many cases, you won't see scores and hordes of Trump supporters out in the streets ever rioting or looting or even protesting, because we have jobs to do, we have families to care for, we want to spend time with our loved ones, and so on and so forth. But it's very revealing how many individuals are out there on the left side of the aisle simply because they feel as if they finally won something. They can't rally around the state of the economy. They can't rally around the fact that everything, literally, since Biden got in office, is more expensive now than before. So this to them is the only thing they can coalesce around. But it's worth mentioning that this can, and I would argue will, backfire against them, because one of the biggest rules in politics is you do everything in your power to not martyr someone. You don't want them to appear to be unfairly prosecuted, because if there's one thing about the average American, we love an underdog. And we will rally around that underdog until the cows come home. So we're yet to see what will take place with this. Of course, we know that Trump pled not guilty, and I have full faith in his legal team to exculpate him from these spurious charges. But the ending of this all should be us looking inward and asking what we can do differently than before. I'm very hopeful and encouraged by reports that ever since this indictment news even broke, the Trump campaign has secured millions in donations, and thousands of people have showed up to or said they were going to volunteer for the campaign in the future. We need that energy now more than ever. And one thing that I will credit the left for is the fact that they will work tirelessly towards a goal, and they will use any means at their disposal to get to that goal, to circle everything back together. Think about that motto: love trumps hate. Because we know the left is so demonstrably backwards in 2023, then the only thing that makes sense is saying that phrase backwards to match with what they are all about these days. Hate trumps love. And that is the most accurate descriptor that I can possibly ascribe to those on the left. They have been so consumed by hate, hatred of Trump and what he stands for, and not even Trump himself, but of you and me, individuals out there who rally around individuals like Trump, who stand up for things like freedom, like protecting the lives of unborn children, like trying to take our country out of these endless wars that we're in, and so on and so forth. So you begin to understand why we've reached this cultural boiling point, because you have individuals on the right who, for one reason or another, we don't want to be aggressive. That's not our default setting. That's why you don't see us out rioting and looting in the streets. That's what the left is allowed to do with carte blanche. But what the left has also done is they've cowed the average person on the right into a state of fear, into a state where, honestly, you are willing to give up some of your rights before they're even taken away from you fully. So when people ask, what can I do in these times? What should I do? The number one thing you should do is pray. That's all too often the last thing people choose to do when they are confronted with uncomfortable situations, but it is one of the most powerful things you can do. The second thing is to begin to look very closely at your elected officials, especially if they claim to be on the right side of the aisle. This should make your vetting process very easy. If anyone out there on the right side of the aisle is not apoplectic over the current state of affairs, that should tell you what you need to know. In these times where we are teetering on the brink of going fully into a socialist and communist hellhole of a country, then it falls to us to make sure anyone running for any level of office, especially at the local level, is going to stand for what we want them to stand for. And if they don't, it's time for them to go. You might argue that voting is unnecessary or it's useless or pointless because the system is rigged. And of course, there's a whole spiel I could do on that about the fact the left wants you to think that way so they won't have to turn out such large numbers for future elections. But consider this. If you use this as a galvanizing moment, if you choose to take more time than ever before to vet those who are choosing to aspire to run for office, if you take time out of your day to choose to go to town hall events and question them directly before they rise to power, then you might actually have a fighting chance of saving the country and starting from the ground up. That's what the left did. That's what George Soros does. While we're focused on the presidency and who's going to be the president in 4 years, we fail to realize that individuals like Alvin Bragg in the first place were installed by individuals like George Soros and those on the left who realize how important it is to fully cut off the American way of life and starting at that local level. So it's up to us, truly. It's up to you to realize that there's things that you can do differently. One of the things that the right chooses to do is turn the other cheek. But what we also choose to do sometimes is have a very short memory. There are corporations and companies and entities out there who are very much against you. Corporations like Bud Light, who will put Dylan Mulvaney on a beer can. You know, all these woke companies out there, even Hershey's recently put a trans individual on one of their candy bars. And what we're very good at doing on the right side of the aisle is saying that we disagree with something vigorously, that we will temporarily boycott them, but then over time, we will just begin to forget it ever happened. In order for us to effectuate large-scale change, it's going to require you to make uncomfortable choices and actually make some sacrifices. I know that we don't want to be violent, and there's no call for violence. There are ways to get involved. There are ways to make sure that you are signed up to be an election worker in 2024. We have to have an absolute avalanche of individuals, of eyeballs who are ready to look at what's going on in our country when 2024 rolls around. We have to have people who are ready to work on ballot harvesting if that becomes the big play for 2024. We have to think about these things now. Because if we don't, we've already lost the country. And that's not a reality that I want to see for my future. I still want to have a family someday. I still want to take care of my future children. And I can't do that if the country falls. Neither can you. But one thing I want to leave you with that should give you some hope is the fact that because of all of this wall-to-wall Trump coverage, what it reveals is that even the left knows that Trump is the one everyone is focused on. Joe Biden is not in any way, shape, or form the leader of this country. And the reason that they are so focused on taking down Trump is because they realize how many of us stand with him. But we can't just stand with him. It's time for us to mobilize, organize, and figure out ways that we can be more effective than ever before if we do want to save the country. And that's the message I want to leave you with this video. Let's pray. God, in Luke chapter 6, verses 27 and 28, you tell us to bless those who curse you, to pray for those who despitefully use you. And even in these times where we see individuals who are being unfairly persecuted by those on the left, who thumb their nose at you, at what you intend for the world, and at what you created, we ask you to help us find ways to even bless those who curse us, to even pray for those who are against us. And we ask you to remind us to do that every day. Then we also ask you to give us resources and ideas and ways that we can come together like never before in order to save this country and in order to restore her order for your glory, not our own. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. This video is not for a leftist. Some leftists out there will not wake up. I fully understand that. But there are still some individuals out there, some on the middle, some on the fence. And it is instances like this that we can hopefully use to help them realize what the status quo really is, who is in charge, what they are fighting for, and how we can push back together. And the best way you can help them realize that is to share this factual video. Share this with individuals who need to hear it. Press the like button on my page. Press the follow button. Do whatever you can. It doesn't cost you anything to help amplify this message to other individuals who need to hear the truth. That's all I ask of you. That's all I've ever asked of you. And I'm so grateful to those of you take it upon yourself to support me by doing exactly that. But you know how it is. You can find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram, find me on Twitter, find me on TikTok, find me on YouTube, find me on True Social, find me on Parler, find me on Gab, find me on Rumble, find me on Telegram. The list goes on and on. I will continue to work hard to deliver the content you've come to expect from me for as long as God gives me breath. And I'm so grateful He's given me these gifts and these talents to share with you. But thank you so much for watching. I love you all. I appreciate you all. Pray for Trump, and let's get in the game like never before. I will catch you in the next one.